Hello guys, this is a guide on how to Jflick with Blight. I don't think there's any Jflick guides out there, so I thought I would make one to help any aspiring Blight players. A couple of things before we start though, and that is the sensitivity you'll need to Jflick. You need quite high sense to Jflick. I play on 1600 DPI with 100% in-game sense. But I think anything above like 1000 DPI with 100% sense should be enough to Jflick. And another thing is it is technically an exploit. It's not intended by the developers, and if you don't agree with using exploits, then obviously don't use the Jflick, and you can stop watching right there. I'm going to be playing some Blight gameplay I did earlier in the background to keep you entertained while I talk about how to Jflick and why it works, stuff like that. So I'm going to start with saying why the Jflick is so effective and why you should learn how to do it. And as I'm sure all Blight players know, his normal turning when he does a lethal rush attack, you can go about 60 degrees either side, it's quite limited. But if you use the Jflick, you can turn to any angle you want. So even if a survivor is round a corner 180 degrees, you can Jflick around the corner and still hit them, even though it's like normally you can imagine of hitting things like that. And this is really useful for just even basic things like hitting survivors around trees. Because normally it's like when a survivor's behind a tree, you have to sort of guess which side to go to, and then hit them right at the edge of your model, because you've got like a rectangle hitbox. But with the J-flick, you can just 180 around the tree, or J-flick whatever degrees around the tree, and hit them every time, which makes tree juking almost impossible. J-flicking is also incredibly useful when going around loops. Say if you're a TNL or if you're at the T wall and the survivor's going to vault and you're on the outside of the T wall, you can rush on the outside and then 180 around the edge and hit them as they vault, and the survivor will never expect that because you can normally turn about 60 degrees and you'll get a lot of easy hits like that, which the survivor will never expect, and it will give you a big advantage when you play Blight. J flicking is also really useful in saving rush tokens. Because when you play Blight, you only have 5 tokens, and they don't regenerate very quickly. So the less tokens you use to hit a survivor, the more like efficient you are. Because you say you use 2 tokens to hit someone, then you have only 2 tokens to recharge before you can rush again and hit them again. So with the J fleet, you can get a lot of early hits in, like around rocks and stuff, which you'd usually have to use another token, say bounce off a tree to get a better angle, which you can usually curve with the Blight 60-degree turn. That's enough about why the J flick is so good, and I'm sure you understand why it's so good when you learn to use it. Now I'm going to do a quick explanation of how the J flick actually works, which will really help you understand when you try and use it. And the J-flick works because when you press M1, there's a singular frame after you press it in which you have no sensitivity cap. Because normally your sensitivity cap, so you can only turn very limited. But in that one frame, you can turn any angle, say 180 degrees, say 270 degrees, say 90 degrees, whatever you want, wherever a survivor is. And then your blight will start rushing in that direction because you're looking in that direction. And that's basically how the J-flick works. Now I'm gonna use this clip of a Jflick that I got in a game to say how to Jflick, because I think it's easier to understand if I show you a representation of it, and I'll talk about the mouse movements and how you get these crazy turns. So I'll just watch the flicks begin with. You can see I see the survivor with a compound, and I Jflick 180 degrees to hit them there, and now we go in slow motion, and the first thing you want to do always is decide how you're going to J-flick. So I see there's a T-wall here, I know it's a T-wall, and I know the survivor are probably going to vault because I can see them with the compound add-on. So I'm like, I'm going to rush here into this bit of grass, and I'm going to J-flick around the corner and hit as they vault the T-wall. Now I got that plan, I rush and I go to the corner. Now, this is all done very fast in game, but there's a few steps you need to do to get the flick you want. Here I want to flick 180 degrees, so I hit the survivor as default, but depends what loop you're going around. If it's a tree, you might want to only go 70 degrees, 110 degrees, I don't know. Fit for whatever you're doing, but here it's 180 degrees, and it's very precise a few inputs you need to do. So here, right at the corner, you need to start flicking left, and left in this situation, but it wouldn't matter if it's right. So start flicking left very fast in your mouse, and this is before you press M1, crucially, and then you start flicking left, and then just in the middle of your flick, say you have 50 centimeter mouse mat, at about 25 centimeters, you want to start holding M1, and you continue flicking for the other 25 centimeters, and that will whip your camera in one frame to the angle you want. And you can see this in slow motion. The camera immediately whips the angle in that one frame, and it's not frame perfect or anything, because if you're constantly moving your mouse, you just get that one frame where you turn, it will go back to normal blight sense. After that, it's pretty simple. You just go around the corner and smack them. After you've done the actual flick, you just keep holding M1, and the blight will take you to your designated location here, which was this arena. Here is another example of a Jflick I got, and I'll explain how this one works as well. So I see the survivor, and I want to obviously hit them. So I bounce onto this generator, and I see, oh, it's a bit fast. So I bounce off the generator, and I see that the ace wants to go around the corner into the jungle gym. So I know that I'm gonna have to flick quite a tight angle to get him. So I'm preparing myself. I'm thinking I need to move my mouse quite fast, so I'm gonna go full 180 degrees. And I'm planning the route I'm gonna take. So I'm gonna go right here at the corner and then flick. And I go to the corner and I flick. It's very fast. And I go around the corner, and then just the quick little adjustment at the end with the normal blight sense, and I get ace in the back. You see this in slow motion, that one frame of flick. It's because this is the last angle I want to see. If you move the blight to the right, I'll be looking at the ace here. So you flick to that angle, and you go around the corner, and then hit him. This is actually quite easy to do on a lot of loops, because when blight attacks, he doesn't have any like bumping or anything like Billy does. So walls can actually be quite helpful, like the wall on my right there, sort of push me towards the ace. To get the hit, you can see the wall on the right pushing me towards him. Some final notes about the Jflick, now that you know how to do it, and they are add-ons, and crucially when you shouldn't go for Jflicks. It's quite important to know. And firstly about add-ons, they don't affect the Jflick in any way. The actual flick, you swing at the same velocity, whatever add-ons you run. But I would recommend running some kind of speed add-ons to get to behind the survivor faster to hit your Jflicks. Because if you're going slowly, then it will be harder to get in the right position to hit them, because they'll get around a corner faster. And another add-on I recommend is the Compound 21. I think it's the best add-on on Blight, and it'll let you see the survivor usually before you Jflick around the corner, which allows you to get a nice mental image of where you're going to be hitting before you flick. So it's you can focus on the flick instead of where the survivor is. And then when not to use the Jflick, which is quite important to learn. And this is if you're behind quite a wide rock or quite a wide loop, it's pretty much impossible to Jflick around it. Even though you can 180, the survivor will reach away from your range. So it's much more efficient to save your tokens and go into fatigue. And then a lot of the time they'll just have to drop a pallet quickly, in which you can break it and rush again, or you can you'll fatigue and then you can just go and M1 them and then rush again and hit them. It's quite similar to if you play Nurse. If somebody double backs into you, you often fatigue because they're quite close to you and you get an easy one block and hit them. It's quite similar to that. If you got that skill, then learning when not to Jflick should be quite easy for you. That's pretty much it for the guide on how to Jflick, when you should use them, what else to run. Thank you for watching, and I hope I see more Blight mains coming in and wrecking all these rank 1 survivors.